In this video, I'll show you how to update a record owner of a record in a model driven app using JavaScript. Now, this is a simple model driven app which I prepared, which lists down some of the airlines in the world. Now, if I go inside any of the record, you will see all the record related information like the name, the brand image, the airline description, the email, total staff, etc. But there is one field which comes out of the box named as owner. Now, if you create a record, you by default become the owner of that specific record, right? Now, what if I want to change that owner using JavaScript? Okay, now it can be any logic, like say if you want that record to be created by a person, but then after some logic you need to assign it to some delegate or manager or any other person within your organization. Now if you want to change that, yes, you can go ahead and change that using JS. Now over here, if you see this information in the form, like this owner record is by default like I've enabled in the form, and that's why you can see over here. Now if you don't know how to add that, owner record already exists within the by default form. Now there is an option to hide or remove this owner field, but technically you should not allow user to make that change. Okay, so the person, the power user who's basically using the application, you should not allow that person to change the owner record. Now you can do that in the back end and then get that information sorted out. Now here, if I want to change the owner record, it is simple. I can just go over here, search for the other record, user. I'll just type in Alex and then I can change that to Alex's name, right? But I'm not going to do that. Okay, so let me just keep it to myself and I'll save this record. Now, so I'm the owner of the record. Now, what if I want that all the records should be changed to say some user? Now, user can be say anyone, but in my case, if I go into the backend, I can see that under table users, I have this username called as Alex. So I filtered this by user, Alex. Now, remember, every user has their own set of identifier. Okay, now, if you see over here, Alex's identifier is this. Now, if I select someone else's identifier will be different. Now, if you know the ID of that person, you can easily change the owner of a specific record. So let me copy this record. Okay, copy this identifier. So what we're going to do is like a simple logic. Once the form loads, so this form, this is a list basically, and if you go inside a record, what should happen is like when this form loads, the owner would be automatically replaced with say Alex. Okay, so if Girish has created or if John has created or Jim has created, it will automatically change that to say Alex. Okay, so that's how we're going to write the code. So Air New Zealand, again owner is Girish, I will change it to Alex. And then again, if you go to American Airlines, now here owner is Girish, I will change it to Alex. Okay, so that's the goal. So for that, we are going to write a JavaScript on the form load. Okay, so let's start writing the JS. So first, we'll go over here in the Visual Studio Code and then start writing the JavaScript. So the function name would be as simple as update record owner. Pass the execution context, and then all the rituals like form context equal to execution context dot get form context. Make sure that you spell it correctly. This F should be capital. So get form context, F and C capital. Then we will take the record ID. We can call it as an entity ID or you can call it as a record ID. This will be the unique identifier for that current record. So form context dot data dot entity dot get ID. Now this ID which we are going to get is not in a form which we can use, so we need to replace the curly braces. So I'm just going to replace the opening curly braces with technically nothing, and I'm going to replace the closing curly braces with nothing. So I'm going to get rid of the opening and curly braces, and at the same time I'll make that into a lowercase so that I can pass those information to the function. So this is my where entity ID. Then we'll say where entity name equal to form context dot data dot entity dot get entity name, and then we need to pass a data. Okay, now I'll come to this data in a moment, so I'll just put this data as something. Okay, so in curly braces, so we are going to pass this information. Now the main function which we are going to write is Xrm.web API dot update record. So we're going to update the record, right? So we're going to update the owner. Now remember, we are not going to update the owner. We are going to update the owner, but the owner is not in that same table. Okay, so owner belongs to a different table. Okay, so how do we address that? So first thing here, we pass the entity name, and then we pass the entity ID, and then we pass the data dot then, and then we put a semicolon, and dot then, expand this, remove the unwanted spaces, and here you write the code. Now the code is simple function success result and comma function error, and alert. If you have any error, you can just alert or put it in a console.log. If you do not want user to see the error, and that's the basic scaffolding which we have created. Now in order to write the code, here we need to, like, there's like, what will happen is, like, this code will automatically get updated. You need not do any activity over here, because what we are essentially doing is we are just replacing the owner of that specific record. Now here you can just type in what was the record set. I'll just say alert, say owner updated, and then if you want to put some value, you can just say get the result dot id, or get the result dot the type of that entity, or something like that. I'll just put result dot id for time being. Now data. Now this is an important part. Now in order to change the owner record, now as you see over here, this owner record, like if I click on this, it will basically open the user record form, and then I can see all the information, like username, first name, last name, and all this information. Now from where this is coming? This is coming from the user table. What is the name of this user table, like the internal logical name? So the logical name is system user. Okay, now when you want to reference the user table using like passing on the parameters by using the O data, you will need to use something called as a set name. Okay, so I'll just copy the set name, and I'll show you what that set name is. So the set name has come as system users. Okay, so we're going to use this. So we're going to use the set name. Now go to your code over here, and here inside data, we need to pass on, what are we going to change? We are going to change something. Okay, now what are we going to change? We're going to change the owner. Now owner column belongs to this airlines, right? So if I go to the airline table, here I should be able to see the owner column, right? So I want to change this Girish to Alex. Okay, so I'll just say edit column and check out the name. So the name is owner ID. So I'm going to change the column owner ID. So let's copy this owner ID and go to your code. And here we say, I'm going to change the owner ID. So owner ID equal to, not equal to, rather than colon, and then something. Okay. Now something is, we're going to make use of that logical name of the user table, right? So the user table which we have copied with the plural name, is like the system users, right? The set name is system users. So I'm going to just copy the system users. Now owner ID is system users, but which system user? I want this Alex's name, right? So we're going to take the Alex's ID. So I'll just copy this Alex's ID and then paste it over here. Okay. So there has to be some format. So I'll just say put it in a bracket and paste this value. Okay, and then end the double quotes. So this is owner ID, system users. But there are some syntax going around over here. Like as you might have seen, like if you operate this on a Power Automate flow as well, you need to put it in some fashion, right? So the fashion is just put a slash over here because you're just referring to the system users table, and then you're passing the ID. So you say that I'm passing this owner ID, get the owner ID from the user table, and then attach it, and then pass that entire data set, and then you update the record. Okay, owner ID, we said that, oh, this is the owner ID, this is a column for that specific airline table. I want to change the owner ID, but again, this is like a special column. As you see over here, the data type is owner. Okay, now, it is kind of like a multi lookup. So it can be a user, it can be a team, it can be any other thing, right? Now, in order to retrieve that, you need to make use of some special syntax. So the special syntax is you just say owner ID, but now you put that in a double quotes. Okay. So let me put this in double quotes first, and then use an add the rate sign and say o data dot bind. So this is the syntax. So owner ID at the rate odata.bind slash system users and then the entire ID. Now don't put a semicolon over here because you're passing it as a data. You can pass multiple values at one go. You can write something over here, but I'm just gonna put owner, right? Let me close this. Let me remove the space over here. And now our it looks good as of now. So let's see if you have written the correct code. So the goal is to change all the owner into Alex. Okay, so whoever may be the owner, if the owner is Alex, change it to Alex. If the owner is Girish, change it to Alex. Now I've just hard coded this, but then in your code you can take this as a dynamic value from your form or any other result set, and then you can make it dynamic depending on your business logic. Copy this code. Once you get this code, put it in the web resource, copy this, save, and once you save it, just publish this code. What is the name of the function? The name of the function is update record owner. So I'll just copy this update record owner, and once it is published, I'll just go into the form, and then in the form events onload event handler, I've already added the library over here. So update record owner, pass execution context is the first parameter, save and publish. Once this is published, what should happen? If I go into the airlines, in any of the airline, then the owner should change. Now, as you see over here, the owner of Air India, Air New Zealand, and American Airlines is Girish, as evident from here as well. So let me show here. So let me see this information over here. Okay. So as you see, this information, Air India, Air New Zealand. So let me refresh this. So the top three record set, the owner is Girish. I need to change that to Alex. So I've hard coded Alex's value. I've written a JS. I've attached to a model driven form. And then once I go inside a record, that owner should change. So let me go inside a record. So I'll go into Air India and the code will run and it will say owner updated. So I've just put an alert, owner updated. It'll say okay. And let me go back. Let me come back here again, and as you see, it is changed to Alex. Okay, now similarly, like let's see in the backend as well if it is reflecting correctly or not. So as you see over here, Air India owner is Girish. Let me refresh this. And once it is refreshed, this should load down. Air India is Girish. Now let's go into the record Air New Zealand and change the owner to Girish. So in order to do that, just go back to the airlines, go to Air New Zealand. You will see Girish as the owner, but once the JS is run, it will change. Just click on OK, go back, and then if you go again, you will see the owner change to Alex. Now here as well in the backend, just to prove, Air New Zealand owner is Girish. After the execution, it should change to Alex. Alex. So what we have seen in this entire exercise is like it is very easy to change the owner using JavaScript by using update record. So what we are doing is we are making use of some special syntax. So special syntax is nothing but just like a simple thing. We have constructed this. We know this is the name of the column. We know this is the name of the set name of that target table, and this is the GUID. Except for that special thing we need to add, like at the rate odata.bind, pass on this data to Xrm.WebApi update record and get the owner change. Now this is useful in scenario if you have a record being created by some users within your organization, but then after some logical execution you want that owner to be changed to different department or different business unit or maybe an admin, so you can go ahead and do make use of this code to change the record owner using JS. So that's it, folks. This is how you basically use the update record to change the owner of a specific record. Thanks for watching.